Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Friday, what is that, the 9th of January, 2026, which makes this the news and events for Thursday, the 8th of January, day 1414 of Russia's three-day special military operation. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital, which is currently under air alert. And I've heard some pops and bangs in the background. You might too. I see the peeps are coming in. There's our friend Scully from down under. How you doing, Scully? Hey, Chef Deb, nice to see you. Van, my man, is in the house. Good day, mate. Dan Borman is here. Hey, Ian, Richard Prexis. Hey, Parda. Hey, Gary. How's everybody doing? Anthony, Tommy, Tom. Hey, G2. You're on time, Van. It's impressive. It's very impressive. Hey, Dino. Hey, Akron. Hey, Flying Sunbeams. What's up, Stu? Jean Marquis, what the F? Well, that's an interesting way to introduce yourself. Ha 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 ha. Hey, Pete. Yeah, I do still have some hair. Hey, Paul. Hey, Nightshade. Hey, Bernard. I'm doing good. Hey, Kennedy. Bjorn. Hey, Flip. Flip, how you doing? Hey, Joe, what do you know? Hey, Carl. Gary. Feisty's in the house. Iran is kicking off now. It is, Andy. It is. I really hope. We were talking about this the other night. You can't ever really liberate anybody. If people don't liberate themselves, they'll never get there. Right? That's what revolutions are for. And the only things you get out of this life are what you grasp with your own bleeding hands. That's it. And it is time for the Iranian people to stand up and take the reins of their own future in their own hands. And I hope they do. It's time for the Americans to do the same, by the way. It really is. Hey, Bernard. Hey, Michael. Joe, you're like Pavlov's dog. I'm like Pavlov's dog. When you pop into the chat, boy, I start salivating immediately, thinking about an everything bagel with Taylor ham and cheese, cheddar cheese, a nice New York sharp cheddar cheese, just melting over the edges onto the bagel, and an egg with a runny yolk. Man, I'll tell you, the things I miss about America are, besides the people, it is the food more than anything. Oh my God, did I tell you guys, Becca and Lori from Spirit of Ukraine Foundation came to Kyiv, I want to say back in September. And they brought me a jar of Miracle Whip. And I nearly cried with joy. I really did. That Miracle Whip lasted me. The last of it, the last tablespoon of that Miracle Whip went on a Thanksgiving turkey sandwich after Thanksgiving dinner. It was the best turkey sandwich I had since I've been here. Anthony Tommy Tom is going to the fridge. Gunther, Germany's in the house. Hey, Chrissy Locks. The Senate is pushing for a bill to restrict Trump from military action without their approval. Yes, they are. Renvox wants to know what Miracle Whip is. Miracle Whip is like mayonnaise, only with flavor and personality. It's an American concoction. Definitely no good for you. Now, here's the thing. Googling Miracle Whip. Here's the thing about that. I'm sitting here in Ukraine for 3 years with no Miracle Whip. And then the girls brought me some, which was great. And it never occurred to me to Google, make your own Miracle Whip. That's a thing you can do. So let's talk about the United States for just a second. Oh, Anthony, nice. Now, dressing. It's a dressing, Dino. It's a dressing. Okay, now, let's talk about the United States for a minute. Because, of course, so much of this conflict is dependent upon U.S. support. And we know goddamn well from every poll, the American people support Ukraine on both sides of the aisle. We know that inside the U.S. Congress, there is broad-based support for Ukraine. But we also know that the federal system of government in the United States has been subverted by a malign foreign agent in the re-election of the person of Donald Trump and his criminal gang of ghouls and goblins that are doing everything they can to destroy the American federal system and to subvert Ukraine, subjugate Ukraine, force Ukraine into capitulation to our common enemy, the evil empire. This is the world that we're living in. And so far, Congress has been completely neutered. They do not seem able to do a goddamn thing to rein the Fanta Fura in. That may be about to change. It may be about to change. Here's why. A couple of things are happening. Congress unanimously passed two completely uncontroversial bills. Both the House. First of all, when was the last time that you heard of Congress doing anything unanimously? It doesn't happen, right? Two bills. No one could possibly object to them. Clean water as part of a long-standing program, clean water in Colorado. And then the other one gave some tribal lands more control over their own lands. Simple, easy, no controversy. Unanimous support in Congress. Hey, June. He vetoed both of them. He vetoed both of those bills. Now, look, you know why he did it. He did it to see how far he could go. Could he stop two bills that had unanimous support in Congress, and the Congress wouldn't stand up to him and override the vetoes? That was his test, his loyalty test for the Republicans in Congress. I'm sorry, I'm just looking here. Gary is saying that Lviv was hit by Oreshnik. Hey, Jan. Now, I can't confirm that. This is the very first that I'm hearing about it. But we do know, right, both the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense and the American Embassy today published warnings that large-scale ballistic missile and drone attacks were expected within the next 72 hours. And we'll talk about Oreshnik here in a minute, but let's finish the discussion about what's happening in the United States. Thank you, Gary. That's very interesting. I'll be interested to see if that's Noel Reports is saying it. Well, Noel Reports is pretty reliable. Okay, so Trump vetoes these two bills that passed with unanimous yes votes in both the House and the Senate. The House is going to vote on them again. And then they will send them to the Senate to try to override the president's veto. This is the first time that we are seeing Congress do anything to stand up to Mango Mussolini. It's the first time. The bill to rein him in. Hey, Trav, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. The bill to rein him in because of his excessive overreach with military force in Venezuela. And look, it's a hard thing, right? Because God knows, you have to respect the American military. They pulled off that operation, that 3-hour exfiltration of Maduro with precision and professionalism, the likes of which no other military on earth could possibly do. Couldn't do it. Nobody has the expeditionary force to put that kind of power just off the coast. Nobody. So you have to respect the military for it. But then you have to be very deeply concerned that the military is so willing to execute orders that are clearly illegal under the American system. Very disturbing. It's very disturbing. And it is so disturbing that Congress is moving to rein him in. Now, I don't think they can. I do not, because he does not give a fuck about the law. He does not give a fuck about his responsibility. Manuel, is that true? The House failed to override the vetoes today. Ugh. We had no power here for the last 6 hours. I haven't been able to do a goddamn thing. Now, if that's true, and I have every reason to believe it is, because I don't think Manuel would make that up. If that's true, then he found out that they are in his pocket. He's got them. If 218 Republicans could change their vote and vote against something that they just voted for just because Trump said no, that's insane. We're in trouble, America. We're in deep, deep trouble. When I heard the Vice President of the United States today vilify the murder victim of ICE, right, Miss Good, Nicole Good in Minneapolis, when I heard him vilify her today and try to normalize the summary execution of a native-born American daughter of the Republic, a mother. We are headed in the wrong direction. Badly. Okay. Wow, I never thought that I really thought that they would get them through. Okay. I think 16, Scully. Am I wrong? Was the child only 6? Honest to God, Hopat. Well, that makes sense, right? It makes sense that America is becoming like Russia because Donald Trump is only the president of the United States because of Russian support, because of the corrosive poison of Russian disinformation poured into the ears of Americans for the last 40 years. Corrosive. Donald Trump is clearly in service and in debt to Putin and his regime. Is Raven here? 101 drones in Ukraine. Could be. Oh, yeah, Seawolf, that was definitely murder. That's why he wants Greenland to help Russia. No, to become the American empire. The sphere, what it appears to be is exactly what Fiona Hill told us 7 years ago. That these guys want to live in a world of spheres of influence where America gets the Americas and where Russia gets Europe and China gets Asia Pacific. That's how they want to split the world up, where you have these powerful nations that dominate and dictate the future of their less powerful neighbors and exploit them with a neo-colonial approach for the extraction of minerals and other natural resources. Oh, he's raking in the cryptocurrency. You know that. Okay. Is Raven here? I'm just wondering if Raven is here, because Raven is always interested in how UK weapon systems are doing in Ukraine. And we have good news on that. We just got a whole bunch of new Gravehawks and, what's the other one that the British have provided? The other made for use air defense system that the British developed specifically for Ukraine. We just got a bunch of them, and hats off to the Brits. That's great news. Now, Drew wants to talk about not Storm Shadow, no, not the long-range Storm Shadows. It's the Raven. You're right, Nightshade. It's the Raven and the Gravehawk. We just got a bunch of them. And Raven is always asking about the Ravens and the Gravehawks. So I'm very happy to announce that the UK has come through again, and more of these systems are now in the country. Now, Drew wants to talk about what's happening on the Pokrovsk front line. We have a reporting from embedded Atesh partisans in the Russian army who are reporting that commanders in Pokrovsk are trying to flee. That morale is sinking right through the floor. And they're all requesting reassignments out of Pokrovsk because it is such a dangerous situation. We know that the Ukrainians have reclaimed all of the territory north of the railroad tracks. Those railroad tracks bisect the city. So the northern part of the city is in control of the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians have taken those Australian Abrams that they just got, moved them to the front, and are just pinpointing Russian positions south of the railway lines and collapsing the buildings on top of the Russians that are hiding in the basements there. It's a bad scene, and it's no picnic for the Ukrainians either. I'm not trying to give that impression. It's got to be hell on earth. But the Ukrainians are holding the line. And one of the consequences of this is apparently that officers are requesting transfers to the rear. Not that they're going to be safe in the rear. The way that the Ukrainians are striking the Russian rear every day means there is no place safe for any Russian occupier in this country right now. It does not matter where you are not safe. These requests for transfer are not being granted. Nobody is letting them run away. In fact, the higher ups are coercing them, right? The Russian army is built on fear and greed. Recruitment happens not because of patriotism, not because of a desire to defend your family from the approaching enemy. No, it's based on, I am deeply in debt. The system has screwed me, and I can save my family by joining the army and getting a great big bonus. Or you're an immigrant into Russia who came in trying to find work, as we saw this week from interviews with Ugandan prisoners of war, Iranian prisoners of war, and one other African nation, maybe Mali. All of these guys came to Russia with the promise of jobs as janitors, as cleaners, as security guards, and instead had their passports taken from them and were told, you're going to the front. Now, of course, the reason we have these interviews with these guys is because as soon as they got there, as soon as they could slip away from their captors, they did and surrendered to the Ukrainians rather than be thrown into the Russian meat grinder. So the Russian army is run by the desperation or greed of mercenaries and fear of barrier troops, particularly the Chechens, right? If you're in the Russian army and you're under attack and you try to retreat, there are Chechen soldiers back there that will shoot you instead. So there's no choice but to go forward for these guys. What about the North Koreans? The North Koreans have about 1,500, as I understand it right now, there are about 1,500 North Korean sappers, deminers, who are trying to clean out Kursk. There's no North Koreans in combat operations. Now, initially, the North Koreans sent 15,500 infantry and artillery troops to Russia. They fought in Kursk, and it is believed that about 6,000 of them, nearly half, were sent home in boxes. And then another percentage, another 6,000, were wounded badly enough to be removed from the battlefield. And it's a very curious thing. I do not know why. Nobody knows why. The North Koreans haven't sent more. You would think that they would send more, but they aren't. And some analysts are suggesting that Kim was not happy with how few of them came back. I find that hard to believe. Other analysts have suggested that Russia screwed North Korea on the payments, that they didn't pay them what they said they were going to. And so they're not sending any more until they get what they were promised. We don't know why, but North Korea has not sent more troops. Now, the guys in the chat here are suggesting that Lviv has been hit by an Oreshnik missile. Now, I can't say that it has been. I don't know that. This is the first I'm hearing about it. Currently, the country is under a scaled barrage of ballistic missiles and drones. So certainly this would be the time that it would happen or could happen. Here's to understand what the Oreshnik is. It's an intermediate range ballistic missile. So we believe that it has a range of 700 to 5,500 kilometers, which I think is about 3,500 miles. Now, why does it have a range of 700 to 5,500? Because it uses a ballistic missile trajectory. That is to say, it goes straight up in the air to the edge of the atmosphere, to the edge of outer space, and then it comes straight back down. Now, the tightest arc that you can do that in is 700 kilometers. That's the tightest arc. The closest object that missile can hit is 700 kilometers away from the launch point. The Oreshnik is really a ripped-off redesign or repurposing of the Ru-26, which is a Russian intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile. But it doesn't have a nuclear warhead. It has multiple warheads, so 6 warheads, again, based on the Ru-26 design. And with an intercontinental ballistic missile, every one of those warheads has a nuclear bomb in it, right? And so when you send the nuclear version of it, the warheads separate and they re-enter the atmosphere, re-entry vehicles, as separate warheads with their own trajectories. Now, that kind of a device does not have to be very precise because it's got a nuclear warhead on it, right? If you just get near the target, there's no more target. The problem is, with the Oreshnik, when they redesigned it as a conventional weapon, there's no room, as I understand it, there is no room in each of these reentry vehicles for any kind of substantial conventional munitions. So instead, they rely on the mere kinetic force of re-entry at terminal velocity, the weight of the vehicle, and then whatever it hits with great force, vaporizing everything in a 12-meter radius and setting everything else around it on fire. That's the idea of the Oreshnik. Hopat says the most surprising part of that was that more Oreshniks exist. That's a funny thing to say, pal. You're right about that. Because we believed that the Russians only had, according to Budanov. Budanov suggested that the Russians a year ago only had 10 of them as prototypes. And this was after they used the one on Dnipro. So, banned, I don't know that to be true. I don't know who would ban it. We don't have any treaty with Russia that would ban it. They do fail, but it's not the missile that you're thinking of that fails. You're thinking of the Sarmat. The Sarmats fail on a regular basis, right? I don't even know that there's been a successful launch of the Sarmat. The Oreshnik does okay. It only fails about 50% of the time. Oh, and by the way, they cost $120 million a piece. So they cost $120 million a piece. They fail to launch successfully 50% of the time. They don't have any munitions. There is nothing to blow up. They are not precise. They are not precision guided. It is a $120 million boondoggle. Now look, that's not to say that if 6 of these reentry vehicles come in and hit the right space, they're not going to cause a lot of damage. The trick is to get them to come in and hit an ammunition dump, an oil depot, a gas line, something where the kinetic energy of that reentry vehicle impacting some other explosive or volatile chemical will create the explosion that you want, right? Because it's just kinetic energy. Now, the Russians see, I find it hard, Gary. I'm not questioning that you didn't see a report that said this. I certainly believe that you did. However, I question whether or not the Russians would ever actually use it, because it was such a failure when they hit Dnipro. And they keep hyping it up. They use it as a tool for creating fear. That if they actually use it and demonstrate again how impotent it is, now maybe they figured out some solutions. Maybe they figured out a way to pack 200 kilograms of TNT equivalent into each warhead. Then it's suddenly a very deadly weapon. Yes. Yes, it is. So we shall see. Donkeys are more accurate. Oh my God, I saw a video today. This is true. This is not a joke. I saw a video today of Russians strapping a Starlink to a horse. The dichotomy, right? The juxtaposition of this modern satellite communications methodology on a literal horse is so striking. It's Mad Max. We're watching the technical devolution of a former superpower in real time. It's astonishing. Russia can neither win nor advance. That's why they target civilians. That's why they pay propagandists in other countries to scream into the void that is the modern internet. Russia winning, inevitable. You must bow to mighty Russia. That's why they spent $400 million last summer trying to convince the world that Russia was ready to go nuclear, to scare us all, to cow us all into submission to their nuclear blackmail. Well, Michael, they do have 6,000 nuclear weapons. Right? Europe and others are, including my own government, certainly the Biden administration was cowed into taking less action than we could have, because the Biden administration was afraid of a Russian nuclear exchange. And that's a real fear for those of us who grew up in the Cold War era. I don't know about you, but for me as a child of the 80s, I remember as a kid having those post-apocalyptic nightmares of me and a few of my friends trudging through a black and white radioactive landscape trying to survive. It was the biggest fear that I had. And we do know where their nuclear missiles are. All of this, all of our failure, and of course I've been saying this for 3 years now, but all of our failures to deal with Russia in this situation has emboldened every tin pot dictator to try to get their own nukes and to live this might is right philosophy that only ever results in lots of people dead and impoverished. It's insanity. I remember the day after, why can't I think of his name? The lead guy, the doctor, big actor, famous actor. I can see him, but I cannot think of his name. Hey, Big D. Hey, you know what, guys? Real quick, I have a correction from yesterday. Well, it's not a correction. It's a clarification. So yesterday I talked about the Russian embassy in Israel closing and multiple flights of evacuations of diplomatic personnel from Israel. I do not know that that was true. I'm still trying to figure it out. Jason Robards, thank you, Henry. It turns out that the original source for that story was like the Tehran Daily Times. I may have fallen into an Iranian disinformation campaign. Video just released of what appears to be Oreshnik. And that's Lviv, noobs, huh? Now, see, why would they use it on Lviv? Why wouldn't they use it on Kyiv? I should shut the fuck up. There might be one incoming. Wolverines! Red Dawn! That was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Maybe that's why I came to Ukraine. It's confirmed now, these guys are saying. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Thanks, Henry. So Flip is saying, I spoke to an Israeli guy today and he confirmed that there was that rumor in Tel Aviv. But the Russian embassy has failed to respond to requests for comments and has not made any official statement that they have closed, nor that they have evacuated their personnel. So that's why I'm having trouble verifying it. To scare the transport routes, I don't know. It would all be speculation. Maybe they were aiming for Kyiv. Hopop, that's funny. That's funny. Right, because Lviv is like, I don't know, it's hundreds of miles away. So that's right about on target. The boom, well, the whole country is under attack right now with missiles and drones. The possible, and it looks like it is confirmed at this time, the possible use of Oreshnik was in Lviv, is what we're being told right now. But I mean, this is unfolding in real time. This is happening while we're here. Maybe to scare Poland. That's a good answer. Thanks, 3 German Dreams. Whereabouts will Trump's Ukrainian golf course? Ugh. Oh, Roy, that's great news. I mean, at least that little bit of political malpractice didn't get through. The Senate will approve it. Well, I shouldn't say anything. I was wrong about the vetoed bills, it turns out. Unbelievable. What kind of effect will it have with the shadow fleet from Russia now Trump took Maduro from Venezuela? It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I was watching an interview with Mikhail, what's his name? Zakharov, former prime minister of Russia under Putin, now living in exile. who said that cutting off Venezuela from Russia would cost the Russians 30% of their war budget alone. That's how important the trade with Venezuela is. And I've been doing a little bit of reading. It turns, I guess what it is the Venezuelan crude oil is a heavy sour crude, which is not easy to refine. It's not particularly useful for most things. You have to blend it with a Urals crude in order to make it worthwhile. And apparently the Russians do this for a number of refined oil products. So they take a lot of oil from Venezuela, blend it with their own domestically produced oil, and refine it into things like diesel, as Woodstain is saying there. Yeah, Krull, we've been talking about that. Very, very disconcerting. Well, the U.S. is not just light crude, right? When we lost the Venezuelan oil fields in 1977, U.S. oil companies, as I understand it, over the next 50 years, invested $500 billion in West Canada heavy sour crude. And that heavy sour crude gets piped into the U.S., where it gets blended with West Texas intermediate crude and refined into refined oil products for export. So the oil business is a very complicated business, and I am not an expert. But as I understand it, that's why Venezuela is so pivotal in this chain of production. Now, the question on the shadow fleet. We've already seen 2 tankers seized, and we still don't know if anything was on the Bella 1. We haven't gotten word about what was on, or if anything was found on the Bella 1. It is worth mentioning that today, the 5th shadow fleet tanker to be struck in the Black Sea was struck. Another shadow tanker is currently burning in the Black Sea. That is good. We know what the effect of that is going to be. It's going to mean fewer and fewer shadow fleet tankers. The external companies that are covering for Russia or that are actively colluding with Russia to avoid oil sanctions and sell that sanctioned Russian oil out there, they don't want their ships burned at sea. They don't want them blown up on the way to port to fill up at Novorossiysk. And insurers don't want to insure them. The finance minister of the Russian Federation recently was quoted in Moskovsky Komsmolensk saying it's the insurers that will destroy our oil industry. It's too expensive to insure. So the fact that there is yet another shadow fleet tanker burning is good news for Ukraine. Pretty soon, I mean, if they keep this up, the Black Sea will be off limits. And something like 30% of all of Russia's crude oil is exported through the Black Sea. That's huge. Norbert, that's about the best estimate that I've seen too. Russia has about 1,200 shadow fleet ships. Now, not all of them are transporting oil. Some of them are transporting stolen Ukrainian grain. Some of them are transporting stolen Ukrainian sunflower oil. There are other things that they do, these ships. But the bulk of them, probably between 600 and 1,000 of the 1,200, are engaged directly in sanctions avoidance. Did you guys see at the University of Moscow, I forget which one, because there are a bunch of schools there, but at one of the schools in Moscow, a professor started a graduate level course in sanctions avoidance. And so the EU sanctioned the professor, which I thought was a thing of beauty and irony to behold. I really enjoyed that. Okay, it's about 12 minutes to the top of the hour, and I have yet to thank the sponsor of tonight's live, Arna, who is a dear friend of this channel, and we're very grateful for his ongoing support. So Arna is our sponsor tonight. Tomorrow night, it's Guy Matthews, Ben Tilley, and my buddy Jerry O. And then on Monday, we have a sponsor. Oh, it's Jan Halverson. But I have no other sponsors for next week, for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if anybody can sponsor a live next week, that would be great. Little John is saying that a Lviv hospital has been hit. Thank you, Mike Kelly. I appreciate that thoughtfulness. If indeed an Oreshnik has been unleashed against... Hey, Val. Val, are you in Odessa or Lviv today by any chance? Thanks, June. Are you out that way today? You don't have to tell us. It doesn't matter. If you're in Lviv, though, I'd like to know. Hey, Margot, you're in Odessa. Okay. Oreshnik has a multiple warhead system. So with one missile, you get 6 hits. One missile gets you 6 hits. No, wait. Wait, I might be wrong about that. It might be 6 reentry vehicles, each with 6 warheads. So each missile gets you 36 hits. I'm sorry. I believe that that's correct now that I think about it. Sorry about that. So just one Oreshnik will rain down on a city. Nobody knows, William. Nobody knows. Your contact's apartment window in Lviv has been blown in. Yeah, it's going to be a loud night, I think. And if tonight isn't the loud night, tomorrow night's going to be. And, you know, these attacks are coming just as the weather is turning truly into an Eastern European winter. Tomorrow, it'll be like right around freezing for most of the day. But Saturday, the temperature plunges to minus 10 Celsius as the high for the day, which is about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So now, of course, is when they're going to hit us with everything that they can to try to kill the heating systems, kill the power systems. Right now, the heat is on, the lamp is light, and we stand with them that fix and fight. Tornadoes in America. Be careful, Roy. Be careful. Yeah, a lot of drones are headed to Kyiv. Good weather in PA, huh, Trav? Nice. Yeah, we've been talking about the Oreshnik, Val, pretty much all the whole hour. It came up very early. Snow in Germany. Nightshade just sent me the video of Lviv. Did you watch it, Nightshade? Did you ever pardon me. Did you ever burn plastic and the plastic goes zip, zip, zip as it drips, drips, drips? That's almost how the Oreshnik come in. You see multiple warheads coming in fast and you hear them. It's a high-pitched zoop, 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 boom, boom, boom. Is Oreshnik without explosive charge connect force only? Plastic doesn't only burn weirdly, it burns poisonously. Those fumes are poisonous. I encourage everybody to never breathe them in. It should be named Stupid Putingrad. Stupid Putingrad has a ring to it. You're not wrong, Bullrock. Rain in England. I saw there was some snow in the Netherlands, which is a little unusual. They don't get too much snow like England. How many Oreshnik left? Nobody knows. Budanov said last year. So I'm trying to think, when was I? It was November a year ago, right? So about 14 months ago, I was in Dnipro right after the Oreshnik had hit, there to talk to people about what the experience was like. And I will never forget the hotel clerk, a young woman, maybe 24, 25, when I asked her what it was like to have experienced that. Her exact words to me, it was a loud night. That was it. That was her whole response. And the mill bloggers were very unhappy about how little damage. The Russian mill blogger community was very unhappy about how little damage it did to Dnipro last year. Now, is it possible that they're using it again now because they've fixed it? They figured out a way to make it more deadly, more destructive. And I don't have an answer to that. I'll be interested in watching the video that Nightshade has posted. Sent me. Nightshade, have you posted that to your TikTok? Can I repost it from you? It may have been launched from Belarus. Well, we know the Russians staged some Oreshniks in Belarus. But I did a circle. Oh, that's why they hit Lviv. Of course it is. Because if you look at where the launch sites are likely to be in Belarus, right? And you draw a straight line out and then do a curve to get the radius of 700 kilometers from the likely launch site. Most of Ukraine is not within range. You have to go out to the far reaches. You have to go out to Mykolaiv. You have to go out to Lviv. You have to go out to the Donbass to find a target. You can't hit Kyiv from Belarus with an Oreshnik because of the ballistic arc. That makes sense, actually. That makes sense. What Russia would do if Poland invaded Belarus? Well, that's not going to happen. Oh, yeah, much of Poland. I don't know. I didn't look at Poland. It didn't seem like they would send it there. I was just looking at Ukraine. And that's some time ago. That's 14 months ago. So I may be misremembering that little exercise. But as I recall, I wondered at the time. I said, why would you move the Oreshnik to Belarus? You're literally putting most of Ukraine inside of the dead zone where the weapon is ineffective. It made no sense to me. Where's your house, Pingu? Where are you? That you had an oil refinery explode near your house? Thank you all tappers, especially Jake. I love that Jake Tapper. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left. Ooh, sorry. Big thanks to Arna, who is the sponsor of this video, or of this live. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. I didn't see Maddie Wright here tonight. Was she here? Did we have everybody tonight? Because Travis was here, Roy is here, Feisty is here, and of course our very dear Maddie Wright. So thank you all, guys. Thank you very much. Final thoughts, final questions, comments. Arna for the win. Again, I've got no sponsors for next week except Monday right now. If anybody can sponsor live, that would be very helpful right now. Also, I mentioned last night that I didn't have anybody join the Patreon for over a month. And 2 people, Game and T-Bone, stepped up and joined the Patreon last night. So I'm very grateful to them too. Welcome to the Patreon, gentlemen, if you happen to be here. If you follow the channel and you have not joined the Patreon, like Flip did recently, I think back in October, Flip, right? Maybe consider joining the Patreon. That would be very helpful to me. Another riveting evening, Colin, huh? Thanks, pal. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Can you, you probably can't hear that. That's pretty distant. But I'm hearing the sound of anti-aircraft guns now. Don't let the Oreshniks bite. Night, George. Night, Jimbo. Heroim Slava. Mike, I got to go to Mega Mart tomorrow and try to get some bones. Actually, I'm going to try this butcher shop. There's a butcher shop down the street here that is supposed to have good soup bones. And I need some. I need a sign-off phrase. Paul, have you not heard my sign-off phrase? Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow. I stole that from Walter Cronkite. That's the one I've been using. Yeah, I'd like to do it. Well, you know, especially if we're not going to have heat. A bone broth can boil for 48 hours if you want it to. But I usually do mine for about 12. And I get a broth that when you put it in the refrigerator becomes gelatinous. It solidifies right up. And that's what you want to see. You want to see lots of collagen in there. You want to see lots of fat in there. I do make a tasty bone broth, I'll tell you. Yes, I do. And it keeps the apartment warm, right, Mike Kelly? That was a trick my grandmother taught me. My grandmother, when we had an old coal furnace to heat our house. And before I was old enough to shovel coal and keep it going, if Dad got stuck at work or that kind of thing, the fire would go out and we wouldn't have any heat. And so my grandmother would put a pot of soup on and keep the house warm. Yeah, no, as a kid, I shoveled a lot of coal. Pennsylvania, you know, coal was cheap. Bull Rock. So many times, dude. So many times. I can't, you know, you just put a Pepsi bottle on the end of a stick. Stick it in there, zip, 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 zip. So many times. Or I confess, as a mischievous child, I would take the poker and put it in the coals and get it red hot. And then I would take a piece of wood and I would like burn my name into the wood or make wood char kind of, plaques. My father did not appreciate it at all. You're going to burn the house down, Pete. Yeah. All right, kids. Hey, Bip. Oh, that's funny, Arn. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. You son of a bitch. It's a different house, buddy. That's a different house. My parents' house is still standing. Oh. A witch kettle. You had a cauldron, did you? Oh shit, nail varnish remover is extremely flammable. That might even be explosive. You'd go with stay classy. Stay classy, kids. Well, for my money, I'm going to go with good night and have a pleasant tomorrow. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.